What's up, guys? Doug Polk here, and welcome back to another episode of Poker Hands. And today we're going to be taking a look at the largest pot in Live at the Bike history. I was at the table, so I thought this would be an interesting hand to take a look at. Let's jump into the action.
Number one traits. You either love me or you hate me. Very polar, as Doug said. And
It would have been so great if you just threw about the 9-6 and just showed it.
I take pride in that. All right, we got 2 8s from Justin. Call from Josh with the 5-3-0. Michael's in there with the 7-8 off. Alec folds the Jack-9 from the small blind. Mikey's got a King-Deuce. He's going to let it go. Justin is in a dominant position.
Our hand begins with Justin coming in for a raise with pocket 8s from under the gun +1. Definitely the standard play. Now over to Josh, who has 5-3 off and has an interesting decision to make. He can call and try and play some post-flop in position, or he can 3-bet and try to get a little bit of value pre-flop. Personally, I lean a little more towards 3-bet. I think that your hand is under-repped with this line, and you don't allow yourself an opportunity to extract value. He does come in for the call, and the action folds to Michael on the button with 8-7. It's worth noting I had Queen-Jack facing this action, but you don't want to flat loose hands like that facing an open and a call, and it's simply too weak to 3-bet. Over to Michael on the button with 8-7, and he has a kind of interesting decision. I don't really mind all three of his options here. I know you guys hate when I say that, but there's a little merit to each. Calling, you're in position, which is good, against both players, and one of them who's known to be on the loose side. And 3-betting has a little bit of value as well, especially given Michael's image as a very tight player who hadn't raised into many pots. Folding, not completely out of the question. I mean, we did just see a 10-9 off flat for 8 big blinds in another episode of Poker Hands this week. 8-7 off for 3, maybe a little more reasonable to call. So anyway, either way, I can see all three options making sense. And the blinds fold, and let's take a flop.
He's got to be feeling himself. He's got the best hand, 10-6. Both players have gut shots. Might get some calls here. You know Josh is a fold.
At some point, if you just have any hand, it just turns
Josh
into
should raise here, but he's going to call.
a little much. Oh, what do I owe? Sorry.
112.
He did raise. No, he
600.
112. Yep.
Mike's got a call here. Yep.
Here, I think I forgot.
Thank you.
The flop comes 10-6 deuce, and everyone gets a little piece. Justin has a pair of 8s with only one overcard. Josh has a gut shot to the nuts, and Michael also has a gut shot to the nuts, so everyone's got a little piece, but nothing too special. Justin decides that his hand is good enough for a continuation bet in the flop, which is a little bit dicey. While you're probably ahead of both players' ranges, particularly Josh with how loose he's been playing, the problem is that if you face a raise, you're in a tough spot, and if you get called, you don't know what to do in later streets. For these reasons, I generally prefer a flop check and evaluate, but I also do see a little bit of merit in betting to try and thin the field out and put your opponent on more defined ranges. So he goes ahead and bets, and now it's over to Josh. When you have a hand like that here, I think I like raise the most of his options, particularly to knock Michael out of the pot. You know, if Michael has a hand like a 6 or an 8 or a straight draw, he's going to have to just fold facing a bet and a raise. And if Justin's continuation betting with too many hands, like pocket 8s, it's going to work out pretty nicely for him. Calling's not too bad, but he could have other hands like 9-8 suited or 8-7 suited or 9-7 suited that are better straight draws that he could also call with. He does decide to call, and the action is over to Michael on the button. And for all of the reasons I wouldn't mind seeing Josh raise, I also feel like I wouldn't mind seeing Michael raise. Particularly with a bet and a call, it's unlikely that Josh's range has too many strong hands. I think if he had a hand like a set, we'd be pretty likely to see a raise in the flop. Also, given how many hands Josh is playing, it's unlikely he has a hand as strong as a set to begin with. While I would be a little more worried about Justin's range, you can still put a lot of pressure on him by having some flop raises in here. And the thing is, if you don't raise with any straight draws when your opponent does bet, then when you do raise either a flush draw or a set, and it's not going to give you good playability on various runouts. In conclusion, I wouldn't mind having seen a raise from either Josh or Michael, but call is okay from both. Let's take a turn.
4 would be an interesting card. Give Michael the double gutter and give Josh the straight. There it is. I called it. Josh now has the nuts, and he checks the nuts. Michael's got a good spot to bet here. Unfortunately, his opponent has the nuts.
I don't think Michael's going to.
I think he's gonna. He's been playing so
against
solid.
Two opponents?
He should bet. What's he
Double
gonna do?
gutter.
Yeah, he's got to bet. He's got the tight image.
He's
He's got
doing
to
it.
bet. Gotta bet.
And it puts Justin in a tough spot before Josh acts.
Yeah. Justin will fold probably.
I love how Josh is talking.
That's why it's such a good bet by Michael, because Justin's probably
I
gonna
like
fold.
how Josh has the nuts here and he's having a conversation talking
Yeah,
to
yeah.
like, while he has the nuts.
Look at that
abysmal.
instant fold
I was
on
like your
the-
friend
on
that
the-
was like the bowler. You would have thought I was.
That was
like,
Justin, right?
Yeah,
improvement
he
is
just
doesn't
well.
wanna
That's
be-
why it's such a good spot.
He doesn't
for him
want to
bet.
be in a tough spot.
That's
yeah.
why it's such a good spot for him to bet. Unfortunately, his opponent has the
I'm in, like, a
stone
spot,
cold
like,
utter
super
nutter
spot.
butters.
This is the battle of the two successful, wealthy businessmen.
The turn comes an offsuit 4, which is an extremely good card for Josh. He now has the nuts and the flush has not gotten in, so this is basically the best situation he could have hoped for. Justin now checks with his pocket 8s, which in a bloated pot out of position, he's probably just going to have to check fold, which is one of the reasons why I'd like to see a check on the flop to begin with. Now Josh has two options. He can either bet and try and build a pot, or he can try to go for the trap. I don't mind mixing up a little bit of both of these options. In general, when you have good hands, you want to bet and build a pot. That's certainly a good standard. But mixing in some strong hands into your check range can be good too. That way, if the button gets too aggressive, you can check raise them and try and get some value, or even check call and let them try and hang themselves on the river. So Josh does check, and it's over to Michael. Now with 8-7, I really like Michael betting here. He has one of his worst hands he can have, he has no showdown value, and both of his opponents have shown a lot of weakness. So Michael fires out 2K, and it's over to Justin. Justin now quickly check folds, and I just want to say for a moment, while it worked out for Justin in this instance, betting on the flop with mediocre hands to quickly check fold turns is not a good strategy. Generally speaking, those hands are better served into a flop check line for this exact reason. Imagine if Josh had a hand like 9-7, or a 6, or ace-queen. Any of those hands could have folded the flop, and Justin would be folding with the best of it. Justin does fold, and now the action's over to Josh with the nuts. Always a good spot to have the nuts facing a bet. Now Josh decides to check raise huge, and I'm not a huge fan of that. If you have the nuts here, you want to go for either a check call or a smaller check raise to give yourself some room to bluff. The thing about this size is when he raises to 9K with a total stack of 24K, the pot's going to be very large relative to the stack that Josh has left behind. In general, you want to let your opponent at least think if they jam, they might have some fold equity, and then they're more likely to come in over the top. If you raise big enough to look like you're committing yourself, then your opponent's less likely to bluff you and more likely to just go with their strong hands. Also worth mentioning, if Josh did have a weak hand here that decided to bluff, you want to give yourself a reasonable price on that decision. Let's say Josh had a hand like 5s or 3s. Those could be really good hands to bluff with because you blocked the nuts. By going a very big size, you don't allow those hands as profitable of an opportunity to raise, so in general, I'd prefer to see a smaller size with all of Josh's holdings. With the action back over to Michael facing a 9K raise, I'd feel a little bit confused. Your opponent is basically saying they have a set because it's not really possible for the under the gun +2 player to have a straight on a board like this. So in Michael's shoes, he might be thinking this is totally full of shit, his opponent is just bluffing him. But here's the problem. His opponent is either bluffing or he has a very strong hand. And in general against that play, when you're in position, you want to just call. Because if your opponent has nothing, you let them hang themselves on the river. And if your opponent has the nuts, you might find a way to get away on certain rivers, or you might improve with a hand like 8-7 that can improve to 2 higher straights. Now, I understand what maybe Michael's thinking is, if I just flat here, I might get jammed on the river, and then I'm going to have to fold. And that's true. But part of the way you play in position is to float with some draws that can improve to beat your opponent, so you can play later streets well. In fact, the best part about being in position is if you call here facing this raise, you can always put your money in when you get there, and if he checks, you're going to have a really nice hand to bluff with because you have absolutely nothing, and if your opponent did bluff check raise with a pair, then you can get them off of it. So all in all, I'd prefer to play most, if not all of my range on the button as a flat, but I don't think Michael agrees with me.
He just check raised to 9,000. Oh, he went all in! And Josh has the nuts! Oh my God, Michael just went all in.
Wait, how? He raised and
He
Michael
made it
went all
9K
in?
and Michael shoved.
Jeez Louise.
Oh my god.
I did not see that coming.
And he scoops.
Holy moly.
Yeah, by Josh, he just won a $50,000 pot. Oh my lord.
What a shove. What the hell? What just happened?
While I'm not a big fan of the play, I gotta give a little credit where credit is due, and Michael just 3-bet jammed a double gutter on the turn as a bluff for 20-something K. I gotta give that some respect. Look guys, I'm out here grinding my ass off on vacation to get you some vids. Hit that sub button and join the team.